And that's it, our model is ready. Now when you run this, so now we have to create the interface itself. Now we can run this. There you go, you get the title as well as the description that we gave. And when you type something, let's say happy, it's obviously going to generate positive. Okay, so we will start by creating a simple sentiment analysis model, and then we will put that to the interface to see how the app format is. So in order to create the model, I'm just going to use a pre-trained model, and that from the transformers library. So make sure you install that, pip install transformers, and let's go to. Yeah, this is the library that is majorly used for natural language processing. It has got a huge collection of pre-trained models. Now for me, it says that the requirement is already satisfied, but then if you already have it installed, then this is going to actually load in the library itself. Now after that is done, you also want to import the library that is actually responsible for creating the interface, which is called as Gradio. So let's just install that, pip install Gradio. Alright, so the library has been installed. Now we can get to creating the model itself. We want to start off by importing the pre-trained model from transformers, import pipeline. Again, this is the model which will be responsible for performing sentiment analysis. Let me just create the variable itself. It will be pipeline. I'm just calling the instance that I just imported. And inside this, you want to mention sentiment-analysis. This is going to load in the sentiment analysis pre-trained model. And that's it, our model is ready. Now this itself will become a function. Let me just show you a sample, sentiment analysis. And then you can just simply pass in a text when you run this. So after loading in the model itself, we got the result, and it says that the label is negative because I have mentioned test over here, which the model clearly considers negative, and the confidence is 96%. So this is first in the format of a list, and then inside that there is a dictionary. So if I type in 0, this is going to actually first remove the list. So when you run this again, you now simply get a dictionary, and inside this, the label key will give us just the word that we're looking for. So what I'm going to do here is just simply put this inside a variable, but before that, let me just create a function. Let's just call this sentiment analysis app, and inside this it will take in the input as text, like that. And then let's create a result variable. It will be sentiment analysis, and pass in the text that we just got, return it in the format of just a dictionary, after which you can again create another variable called sentiment, and then declare this to be result of label, which is actually what we want. And let me also just get the score itself. This will give us the confidence metric of the model, of how confident it is with the prediction that it made. So when you run this, you're going to see that the confidence is around 96% for this word. So I'm just going to put that in a specific variable as well. Let me just call that to be confidence, which will be result of score, like that. Now we have everything set up. Let's just return what we actually need. Just going to have this to be a formatted string. Start with sentiment. Alright, so I created a formatted string which returns the sentiment as capitalized version, and then I'm also returning the confidence with 2-point precision. So now we have to create the interface itself, and this should be the output of the interface, and then it should also take in an input as text. Let's see how. So again, as I said earlier, the module responsible for this is Gradio. So let me just import Gradio as gr, like that, and then we can just directly create our interface, which will be gr.interface function, and then inside this you get to mention certain parameters. The first and foremost will be function, which will be sentiment analysis. This is the one that we just created, app, like that. After which you first have to define the input format. In what format should the user give the input, and which will be text, and then also the output format, outputs equal to, again, text, like that. And then I'm also going to set live equal to true. This is going to give us the live result. Let me just show you what I mean. In fact, to actually launch the interface, you have to use the launch function, iface.launch, like that, and then on this code cell. Oops, I forgot to run this one. Now we can run this. You'll first get a generated link which will expire in 3 days. This you can share to people if you want to actually test the model. And when you type something, let's say happy, it's obviously going to generate positive, but then notice how it's actually giving us the live results. Whereas if I take this out, let's just clear this live button. And then now when you see, you have a submit button over here, and you have to type in happy and then click the submit button to actually get the result. So you can decide whatever you want to have. Now if you get to the official Gradio website, here you get to see the documentation, how the code is being implemented. And here we have a very simple example. In fact, these are the 3 parameters that we actually had. And then there's just multiple different examples. For this, you might not have code, but then you see checkboxes, and then you see some numerical values that you have to provide as input, and then the output will be in the format of map. For this, code is not available, but then when you get to docs, this is where you can actually see all of the different parameters that you can give inside of the interface function that I just showed you. And of course, the first 3 is obviously going to be required. You have to mention these 3 every single time, and the others are just of your choice. And these are the ones that you can tune to get actually the desired results that you specifically want from a model. Now, when you scroll down, you're actually going to see a much better example over here in the demo section. What I found over here is the greet function is actually going to take in 3 different inputs. So we can give in the text as in the name, and then the checkbox to give in a boolean value for is morning, and then the temperature, which will be a number, and that can be indicated with the slider. And that's what is mentioned over here. The text is mapped over to the name, and then the is morning argument will be mapped over to a checkbox, that is the boolean value, and then similarly for temperature, which will be a number from 0 to 100, which can be mentioned with the slider. Again, the output will have 2 output boxes, one as text, that is the greet message itself, the greeting that was just created over here, and then the second output will be a number showing the Celsius equivalence of the temperature that was provided. Now let's just try this, how this works. Let's just say the name is something, and I'm just going to tick the checkbox for is morning, and I'm also going to give in a random number for temperature, and then when you submit this, you're going to get the greeting message followed by the Celsius number as well. And then there's one other thing that I wish to show you is when you get to the original home page over here, you can see this permanent hosting box over here, and what it says is actually what I mentioned earlier was you're going to get a generated link, and that will be available for 3 days so that you can give it to people and test how the model is working. If you want to do permanent hosting, then you have to go to Hugging Face Spaces and create an account over there, and then you can create the interface that you want to create, and you can host it permanently. Now there's just multiple different things that you can explore over here in this website, which will be linked in the description. And then I'm also going to type in, say title, actually, let's just put that in a proper format. Over here, let's just mention title equal to sentiment analysis. And then you can also give in a description parameter, put a comma over here. Description would be demonstration of a machine learning model. Now when you run this, oops, I had forgotten to put a comma over here. Now run this, and there you go, you get the title as well as the description that we gave. Now we can again type in whatever we want and test how the model is working. Now when you also click the link, this is going to take you over to a new window where the app is actually going to work. Let me just show you that. And then over here as well, you get to look at the app itself in a specific window, which is actually what we want. And then there's just one more thing that I would like to mention. You can also have a examples parameter. Examples will be, again, you have to put this inside a list. And then let's say you want to try out I am happy. This is going to suggest the user to actually use this text and see what the model is returning. You can also have in something like I am neither happy nor sad, like that. And now when you run this, so again, make sure to put a comma. And this time it's actually going to give you suggestions to what to try out. So when you try this and submit, you'll get the sentiment for that suggested text. Now there's just many other parameters as well which you could try out while creating an interface with Gradio, and then you can also set the input and the output in different formats. For example, let's say you're working with an image processing project and you want to set this to be an image, which means that the input will be image and this input will be transferred over to the function that you created, and then the output, that is the thing that the function returns, will become the output. And then you also have to mention if the output has to be a text or an image or something like that.